Would that
Right.
include, would that include alternative care, chiropractic,
If it's in
acupuncture?
your scope of project. Okay? If you have chiropractic in your scope of project, then yeah, it would be covered. I think that getting it in your scope of project, would be the biggest hurdle.
So you have to describe your scope, like you have to take a permission that now this health center is going to.
When you apply for a grant, when you apply for that Section 330 grant, you get approved for a scope of project. That scope of project includes the services you provide, the sites you provide it at. And they call, and that's all laid out on in a Form 5. Part A is all your services that you provide, and that would be pediatrics, internal medicine, family practice, OBGYN, X-ray lab, blah, blah, blah. It's not a listing of procedures, it's a listing of services. And then in 4 or 5, Part B is the sites that you have in your health center. You know, you may have 1 site, you may have 5 sites. We have a health center in Chicago with 55 sites. But they all have to be approved. Okay? So your scope of project consists of that, the services and the sites. So for example, if you want to have, or you want to do general surgery, you want to bring on board a surgeon, well, you can do that, but is it in your scope of project? Okay, you have to apply to the Bureau and seek approval to have that added to your scope of project. And I get that for general surgery, that wouldn't be a very easy thing to do. Okay, that would be a hard argument to make. The 330 grant program is not designed to provide specialty care. It's a primary care program. So that to go beyond primary care and to go beyond the required services in the statute, you've got to have a strong justification. The Bureau has put out a policy information notice on specialty care that describes the criteria that you would have to meet to get an approval for a specialty service. Okay? And it's laid out for you. And if you can meet those criteria, then yeah, they would approve it. And they've approved some. They have approved some. I know one health center had endocrinology added. That's yours. And another one out in Nevada did too. Because I know the one in Nevada, they had a very high diabetic population. And it made sense to add that service. And to change your scope of project, it's a separate and distinct process to go through, and it takes some time. Okay, let's move on. Scope of employment. You're also limited to your scope of employment. So if you have an employment agreement that describes what you do, if you're doing things outside of that agreement with your employer, the health center, then that's not going to be covered. That seems self-evident. So of course, if you have a second job somewhere and you're moonlighting, that's not going to be protected by the Federal Tort Claims Act. Okay? You basically have to be acting on behalf of the health center to be covered.